Now, the Seagull Theatre brings shows, workshops and education to Lowestoft. The resident theatre company also keeps itself busy putting on shows, not only at the theatre itself, but by touring the county and surrounding countryside. Their latest show is Blackadder, directed by John Hales, who's been at the helm for their last 20 productions, would you believe? Blackadder will be his last stint in the director's chair. John is in the studio. Wonderful at long last to meet.
Absolutely, you too, Steve.
We've had so many of the stars of the shows from your shows coming into the studio. We haven't met before.
No, but thank you for allowing them on. Bless you.
Now, Blackadder, Vicar of Dibley, Faulty Towers. These are sort of hallowed areas of comedy for a lot of people. But you take them on with no fear whatsoever, or. Do you sort of
well, I'm
gibber?
Lucky. Any normal man would be petrified, but I'm lucky to work with incredible people. Yeah. You know, it's the age-old thing from the West Wing. They say surround yourself with people smarter than yourself. So it's, you know, but when you've got people like the amazing casts we have with the Rep, or the the ability to bring in people from London or wherever we do. You're absolutely right. Whenever you take on one of the sacred cows, you think, "What are we going to do?
What are we going to do?
How dare I?" Because these series are series I love, and so what the approaches I've always taken with it is we don't want to just do a tribute act, and you can't just do a carbon copy. You've got to try and make it more of an experience. So with Faulty, we went to kind of get that live studio recording experience, and Dibley, ditto. And the Dibley guys are amazing. They did a show in the middle of one of the churches, so we took Dibley out to do it in churches.
Brilliant. What great.
And they were fantastic. And then now with Blackadder, it's the same thing. But luckily, by some collision of fate, I always seem to find magnificent people who will do the job amazingly, and yet again they've done it with Blackadder.
The Faulty Towers was amazing. I saw it at the Norwich Playhouse,
wow.
And as I've mentioned many a time in this programme, laughed till I cried. There were several bits in there where I just doubled up, and hoots from the audience.
Well, thank you. It's a fantastic venue. I love the Playhouse.
Where did you start? Where did it all start for you? The theatre. Where did it all come from?
As a kid. It's a very odd and almost cheesy story, my relationship with the theatre, because it used to be way back in the 70s the Education Centre by the Suffolk Education Authority, and I was a really shy kid, and I was awkward and borderline emotional issues, and I did some workshops there, and then they got me in the youth theatre, and they saved my neck, and I learned to talk and express myself.
So what were you feeling inside when you were in a classroom full
terrified, mate, absolutely terrified.
Pupils?
If there's a webcam, they can see I'm no small individual, but at least I'm in kind of more rugby shape now than back then, and I was an awkward kid. So it was actually suddenly reading, God, I can do this. This is a moment where I can actually have a talent and express myself and make a difference, rather than be the last guy picked on the football team.
Was that a real sense of freedom then?
Absolutely.
I know that the feeling of the last bloke picked for the football team.
Don't we all?
Don't we all?
Well, rugby was great. They used to just give me the ball and I'd go off and they couldn't stop me. But soccer, forget it. Cricket, that was all right, borderline, But no, so it then. I kind of was part of the fixture and fittings because I fell in love with the place, as so many people do, and which is something I've tried to keep going. Went to the youth theatre there, then went away and trained, and then became an actor, and then got asked back to run the youth theatre, and then ran that, went away, did more stuff, did more acting, just really the directing career took off, bit of writing took off, and then in 2006 I'd come home the year before to look after my dad. He was very ill, and the county council pulled the plug. And so a few of us got together with the MPs and protests and the local paper and, all this kind of stuff. And Archant were great and really helped us. And we did this campaign. And the night before it was due to be sold off, and we'd done business plans, we'd done a lot. But the night before it was due to be sold off, I got a call and someone said, can we meet you? We'd like to buy it. I nearly fell off
11th hour.
11th hour and 59 minutes. Seriously, that was... I know, you couldn't write it. If I'd have written it, I'd have been sacked.
It makes it sound as if they were waiting around the corner. Just for that last moment.
Well, it may be, but whatever they were thinking, I was so grateful.
But because it's not just a case of having somewhere for people to sit and a stage on which people can perform, and there's absolutely so much involved with keeping a place like that up and running, isn't there?
Completely. And the main thing is we are a little miracle because because it runs on volunteers. We don't get any statutory funding, so it's run. There's only like 2 part-time paid members of staff. But the joy of it is you have this army of 40, 50 volunteers, or sometimes a lot less, and people still step up to the mark. But part of our job within that is we give people training, and a load of our volunteers will then go off and get work. And our volunteers range from pensioners to kids leaving school who've never had a job. So actually, they've never experienced the world of work. So when you sit them on reception, suddenly they're getting, most of them are computer literate now, more than me. And I'm going, whoa, but they've never answered the phone to the public. They've never dealt with a customer. And suddenly, whether it's, we've had crew members go off to do national tours and in stage managing, or they get their first job at Tesco, but they're dealt with the public. Do you see what I mean?
Having had a tough time when you were a youngster yourself, do you see that in oththers when they come through the door and know exactly what they need?
Nothing sets me off. I've kind of got this odd radar for it, and the place is, in the nicest possible way, a home for people to rebuild themselves and reinvent themselves. So we have volunteers that are single parents, or parents that have not been to work because they've been raising their kids. We have people that have just arrived. We have people who are in recovery. People who and so it's an extraordinary melting pot. And the best analogy is one of my bosses came up with was it's how do you make that work? And he said, well, it's actually a bit like building a stone wall. You've got all these different shaped stones, but your job is to be the mortar that holds them together and creates something, which I thought was beautiful. And that's my job, as much as directing or, making the books balance. And, it's touch and go with a place like that, because, people are not so much of the theatre culture anymore. It's too easy. Click, download, click, watch. How do you get someone in? And so coming back to things like Faulty or Blackadder or Dibley, it was about trying to do quality programming that would also have an appeal, because money's so hard to come by. People are scared to spend on what they don't know.
Yeah. Some of the things you were saying there while you were talking made me think, yes, get your people involved in real life, 3-dimensional people, real breath and sweat and blood and everything, and something really organic. I think a lot of people forget what they're missing just by playing on a computer, and everything in life has to be through that little portal that is a screen.
Completely.
And when they get bitten by the bug, when they see the experience of actually getting out there, actually talking face to face with people.
I know, it's incredible. And the thing is, it's so much easier, isn't it, not to go out and meet people and have to, get over the shyness. And I mean, we've got incredible people. We work with the job centre, so we have people come with us on placement, and most of them stay on as volunteers afterwards unless they've gone and got a job.
So how do you raise most of your money? Is it just
we have
receipts, or your charity as well?
It's a very strange world with bids. You can get bids for equipment. What you can't get bids for is
core
people
costs.
A lot of the time. And so we have to try and generate that. And essentially the beautiful thing about the building is upstairs is all studios. So we have resident dance companies, resident youth theatres, resident pro companies, people like that. And then you've got 2 businesses really. You've got the upstairs business, which is the facilities, and the downstairs business, which is the actual working theatre and that gets booked out for conferences and all sorts.
That place reminds me, there's something about the ambience of it when you go in there. It reminds me of a television studio.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean? When you go in there,
completely.
You know how sound tight, sound when you shut the doors, it's like you can be in a little universe all on your own.
Exactly, and
it's got that little feel about it.
I'll have to go up there.
It really has.
Richard, seriously, it's the most amazing place. And the thing is, we're always told I always get in trouble for using boxing analogies, but it's the old. But we always punch above our weight, because performers may not earn tons by coming there because we've only got 114 seats. We're not the Playhouse, we're not Theatre Royal, we're not the Marina and that stuff. But what we are is this most beautiful, intimate venue that's kind of like a fringe venue with a bit more on top, So it's and that's what they love. As Stephen says, it is exactly that. It's enclosed, it's intimate, and the right piece of theatre or music or reading or dancing there will blow you away, because you're immersed in it. You're not 500 rows back. You're there. On the front row is on the same level as the performers, and you can see it.
So it's almost like a Jacobean theatre, because Jacobean theatres were tiny.
That's it. It is. Thank you very much. I shall remember that one. You're right. But it is that sense of togetherness, and that sounds very kind of pretentious. But but you're locked in it. But that also transfers out to the building and everything we do. And it's the old Muhammad Ali quote. He said, did you ever hear the story about Muhammad Ali and the shortest poem in the world?
No.
Oh, this fantastic story. Well, it was during the civil rights stuff when he was talking. And he was like, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, all this stuff. And they said, Ali, can you beat the shortest poem in the world? And he said, yeah, I can do it. And before he'd even been asked how many words, and it was 3, and he just stopped and he went, me, and he shook his head, we. And I kind of think
you like it like that.
A bit tenuous, I'm sure, but I loved it. But that, if anything, sums that place up to me. It's that. It's not, people have been very kind with me going and all this kind of stuff, but it's nothing without the sum of its parts.
You sound too modest.
Well,
what's next? What are you doing? What would you do without the Seagull Theatre in
I
your
have
life?
no idea, Stephen. No, I'm actually in my other life. I've got a movie coming out next year in February. So I've written, directed my first feature, and that comes out in February.
Tell us about that? Don't just dangle the carrot and walk away.
It's called Passengers. It stars Anna Popplewell, who was in the Narnia movies. So that's with Ratio Films and Reach Entertainment. So that comes out sort of February, I think, something like that. So that's something. And my agent's finally going, so you're actually available? And I'm going, well, just give me a little time here. Just need to catch my breath and get a little bit of gentleness and all this in there. But he's already kind of saying, oh, well, so-and-so want to meet and so-and-so want to meet, which is really flattering and really lovely. But I need to get well and have a bit of time.
I think you're amazing. You've got so much energy, man.
Thanks, man.
Seriously, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
I'm fueled by other people as well, man. It's that.
Very encouraging and inspiring. Really appreciate you coming in. Like I said, why did we leave it so long?
Well, I know, but hey, it's worth the wait, man. It's worth the wait.
Darling, you were wonderful.
He was as well.
Well, I tell you what, the Blackheaded guys, if you get a chance, go see them. Because
I want to.
I'm really delighted that was my swan song, because they've nailed it.
Left on a high.
Yes.
Thank you very much for coming in.
No, thank you guys.
All right,
pleasure to meet you.
Good on you. And
good to meet you.
Yeah, John Hales from the